of the Richland County Finance and Personnel Committee to order. Clerk Kalish, would you please call the roll?
Carroll, Brewer,
Here.
Luck, Manning,
Here.
Gotcho,
Here.
Turk,
Here.
Williamson,
Here.
Cooey,
Here.
Fleming. You have a quorum.
Thank you. And there was proof of notification.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the meeting was properly noticed.
Okay, we have a pretty abbreviated agenda, 11 points. I'd looking for a motion to approve. Mr. Manning, second by Mr. Gotcho. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, we have an agenda. The February 13th minutes were published. Do we have any corrections, concerns? If not, I will declare those approved as published. And Rick takes us to public comment. Anyone want to speak on public comment? Okay. Reports, county administrator. Staffing updates.
So currently we have 14 jobs posted. We have extended offers to 6 people. 5 people have accepted. 1 did not accept. So we have been able to hire a child support, financial worker, EMT, fairgrounds project coordinator, and sanitarian zoning administrator with sanitarian duties, and a parks and trails maintenance technician. We did hold interviews for Simons as well and have 2 outstanding candidates there. So we are seeing our numbers of applicants continue to rise with Justin being on board and having the time to really focus in on recruiting efforts, which is outstanding. So
It's amazing, in my opinion. The guy has the Midas touch here. So
How did we advertise for that? John, you want to know that? Yes.
he's got various avenues he uses. I know he uses Indeed. and-
So right now we're using, MIS assisted us in reformatting the job application and the website, and that has really facilitated, I think, ease of use. Indeed, WCA, Handshake, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, and the Job Center of Wisconsin. So we've really broadened out our search, and it's yielding really great results, so.
Yeah. Here we go from, well, we can't get anybody to even apply.
And they're all free, by the way. So we're not spending a dime to advertise.
We have candidates, which is wonderful. And I kind of think they hear that Richland County is on the move, moving the right way. So I think that helps as well. Okay. Wage compensation and classification study updates.
So Derek and I are working now on finalizing a list of comparable counties. Once we do that, we will bring it to this committee for approval and then to the county board for approval. Tessa does not want to start anything until we have those comparable counties and she can begin the data collection. So that's where we're at on that. Should be within the next couple of weeks.
Will we have a, will that be presented at county board, for instance, or will it come to this committee first?
It'll come to this committee and then to county board. Yeah.
All right. Dispatch upgrade.
So the one thing that I have to report on is we're upgrading several components in dispatch. The one component is the 911 system, and we are switching from our current system to Motorola Vesta. This was supposed to be in and finished December for our contract. They still have not finished. And that wouldn't be, we'd be okay with extending the contract, but this is on a grant. If we do not have the project finished by June, which is 3 months away, we will lose our grant funding, and it was $250,000. We do have the state pushing on the vendor. I have been sending weekly emails to the vendor requesting updates. And now we have our other vendors pushing on the vendor because it's interconnected. So I have several people, I sent Mr. Wingle a few emails about this and we haven't proceeded to that extent yet. But certainly that'll have to be considered soon because we don't want to lose this money.
No. So is there anything we could do as a board?
I would look to the board for guidance as to when you'd like me to go to Mr. Window, I think.
Well, like yesterday.
There.
Okay. I will contact.
That okay?
Carol and-
Yep.
Get up with stuff.
Yeah, because we can't mess around. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Barb. Financial. Discussion and possible action, resolution approving payment of change orders for the Richland County Ambulance Service. And Mr. Gudgeon, are you handling that?
I'm here to assist in any way I can.
Okay, well, somebody's got to lead that discussion for me. Mr. Wendell? are you-
So, there has been discussion in this committee regarding the payment of, change orders relating to the, revamp of the emergency services building, in consultation with former Director Gudgeon. We've identified some areas where, the change orders were, I don't want to say legitimate, but explainable and within the scope of the project, not assignable to an error on anyone's part. So for example, there was a concrete pad poured for a generator. Apparently in the course of preparing for that, it was discovered that there was pre-existing concrete that was cracked and would not support the weight of the new pad. And so that concrete had to be repaired. That's legitimate. That's a change order that is within the scope of, you know, anytime you start a project of this size, you're going to discover something. There are other areas wherein there have been identified issues, specifically the air handling unit. The building, and Darren, jump in and help me out if I'm losing track, but basically the unit that was designed for us, we don't have the facilities to power. We never did, and anyone who walked through the building would have known we couldn't do a
Three-phase.
three-phase air handling unit. So we, I'm not exactly sure of the process here, but at some point, the vendor was informed of this error. They fabricated a one-phase unit, and that was what was eventually delivered and installed. However, there is now a change order for $17,680 on top of the roughly $24,000 the county already paid for the unit. So essentially, and again, Darren, correct me if I'm wrong, they want us to pay for 2 units
Yeah.
because they built the wrong unit in the first place.
Yeah, so when it first was recognized, it was recognized by our electrician. This would have been August 22. And so he contacted Joe Daniels, the general contractor, and said, you realize there's no three-phase power to the building. There's no three-phase power at all anywhere in that location. It's all single phase, it's residential. So Bob Miller then contacted me and said, hey, I let Juan know that they're building you a three-phase unit. He should be contacting that vendor and having them not do that. You need a single phase. So Juan was notified, Jules was notified. There was emails, and I shared them with Attorney Wendell and Clerk Kalis. There was emails going back and forth between us, Jules, the electrician, and the contractor, and we were trying to come up with a way to make the three-phase work. But my experience was in working in industrial maintenance that they wanted to use what's called a variable frequency drive, which would basically take single-phase power and bring that up to be able to control a three-phase motor and controls. And when I worked at a previous job, we were replacing them all the time. And in the email, you can read it, it says, I don't want to be up on that roof every year replacing something. We need the right unit and we shouldn't be responsible for that.
Did you say that? You said it?
Yes, it's in the email. It's in the email.
Okay,
I also went with city utilities and was like, what's it gonna cost to bring three-phase power here? And I mean, that's a lot of money for one air makeup unit. So they finally, I think emails will show it's gonna be like October, that the Jules finally said, just order the new one, and they agreed we should not have to pay for that. Because the vendor, the HVAC people were already kind of, waiting and waiting and waiting to be able to get into the work. We paid for the unit, and I have to confirm it. I'm working with Jules on that and the HVAC company, but I believe we paid the $21,000 for a makeup air unit. They're trying to charge us for that single phase unit as well. And that's my argument with them was that's not on us. Plus the 15% markup plus 2% contractor fee. So the $20,000 change order, and I apologize, Amber ran this by me a few weeks ago for county board, and I didn't put close eyes on it, and so I might have been able to head off some of this running around for you folks had I paid a little bit more attention. I didn't. That's on me. But it's clear to me that those change orders, the only two that are legitimate are the $7,000 one for the concrete work. That was just things that once we started getting ready to extend the building, we discovered that this concrete, it's already cracked and it's not thick enough. We're gonna have issues. Let's just pour it new, pour it correctly, and then you won't have us come back. The other one was some work inside the garage. I think the change order is like, they want like $6,100. Jules responded back to them with a letter. Attorney Wendell has that outlining, if you would have followed the specs we gave you, you wouldn't have had the extra cost. So they agreed, Joe Daniels did, to only $3,700 of that change order. Those at this point in time are the only two that I'm aware of that we still owe for work that was completed that, legitimately and needed to be done. And I'm not trying to say if somebody did illegitimate work either, but the HVAC one, I met with Amber yesterday. We talked to Jewel and Associates. We have another schedule. I'm gonna come over on my lunch tomorrow, talk to them again. And she reached out to the vendor that put the system in to get us a cost on what the three-phase was and the single phase. And then I'm gonna work with them to verify in a pay app, what pay app did we pay for that motor? I'll get that stuff to Attorney Wendell and Clerk Kalish, so that you folks can, have the information in front of you to what decision you need to make, so.
It sounds like we're on the right track. I think we're on the right track. Anyone else on the board want to come in? I mean, you knew early on, there was no three-phase there. You told them that.
And they walked the building, so.
Oh,
Who, Darren, who built or who proposed the three-phase originally?
Well, Jules hired out contracting firm out of Madison. Dave Jones was the engineer. He came to the site and we spoke. I'll just leave it at that, but
Airflow Incorporated.
yeah. And he's the one that designed the system.
So it should be on him if he's an engineer and designed it, and we don't have three-phase on the property. So,
Yeah, you'll see the emails back and forth where it was pretty clear we're not gonna do that. You're not put that on us. That's not how.
and
we're supposed to do this.
those converter things you're talking about, they never work.
No, they don't. They burn up. Burn up.
They're designed to fail, and they do fail. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Per our contract, the architect, Jewel, in this case, does have the ability to sign off on proposed revisions. So in areas where Jewel has said this is not appropriate, so for example, the 6,100 change order that we should only pay 3,700 of, that is within Jewel's responsibility under contract to deny that to Joe Daniels.
Yeah. And he did accept it, but he sent a second change order. And if you look at the math, it's the balance of the 15% markup on the second air handling unit and the cost that they already agreed that wasn't appropriate because it was within specs. So
Darren, what are they asking for and how much, and what do you feel that is legitimate?
well, what is legitimate as far as what's been brought to you is the $7,000, $7,000 some dollar change order for the concrete work. And the balance of one of the change orders to equal 3,700 because the remainder of that, they had the option to, they did it differently and how they built the parapet for the roof extension. If they would have just followed the specs, there wouldn't have been any extra. So $3,700 and I think 7,000 something. Both of those are legit. I mean, both of those need to be paid because that was roof completed. The makeup air unit, the county should not have to pay a penny of that. That was not our problem. And I feel that both myself and the electrician warned both the contractor and the general contractor and Jules well in advance to shut that down and get us the right unit. And we spent months, literally like 3 months, going back and forth. Well, let's try this. Well, let's bring 3-phase power. Let's put in a variable speed drive. And it's like, none of that is what we need or want. It should have been spec'd out correctly.
Mr. Window, what's our next move?
Well, there is one concern that I have, and Clerk Kalish, Administrator Pesh, and I all met to review this, and there were certain documents missing. Specifically, any record of what, if anything, was brought before the county board. The reason that is concerning is because on the $17,000 new air unit change order, as well as a couple other documents, they're signed by former Administrator Langreck. And if those were somehow approved at some point, then we don't have a leg to stand on because we approved it and, assigned to our administrator the authority to sign on our behalf. Even if a former Administrator Langreck signed it in a way that is not consistent with our policy, it was still incumbent on us to ensure that our administrator was doing the right thing. So we had looked for it. We have not yet been able to find any minutes or agendas indicating that these were brought before the board.
Or this committee.
Again, the change order for 17,000, that's well in excess of even the 10,000 that the administrator is authorized for. So it should have come. We just can't find any record of it. So at this time, I would hold off on paying anything because anything we do pay just complicates things. If we end up finding something where we overpaid, it's much more difficult to claw that back. And we'll need to have a conversation with Jewel and Joe Daniels and say, this is the hazard of working with government, but our board is not comfortable with the process that went on here, and we have these following complaints, and we'd like your response to them. See how they respond, if they have a reasonable explanation, or if there was something that we missed in our review of the paperwork, then we'll reassess at that point. Otherwise, we have the architect saying you should not be responsible for the air handler costs. And again, the reduction of the other one. So per the terms of the contract, we have a much more solid footing in disputing those amounts.
So no action tonight.
But deliberate this time, not for lack of information. Well,
More info coming.
more info coming.
Okay.
I guess I do have one question. I want to be careful that I'm not doing anything that, as I'm not a county employee, I want to make sure that I'm not doing anything that I should not be doing. I want to be helpful at the same time. So I do have that call set up with Jules tomorrow. How would you like me to handle that? Do you want me
I would
to?
like you to involve the current director.
And she has been.
And you'll be operating under her auspices, so,
Okay.
You'll be her agent. You just happen to know more about this particular issue than she does.
So you're comfortable with that?
I am.
Okay, all right. So, and then, I went back through too after meeting on no, Friday?
Tuesday.
Friday.
Friday. And there was, and I spoke with Clerk Kalish, there wasn't anything that came from my office. I would have put something together like an email or an agenda to finance our county board, so there wasn't anything that came other than the roof. So, you know, as much as Administrator Langrick should or should not have signed whatever, I think part of that's on me too. You know, I was in communication with him and brought things to him, and I honestly didn't realize that we were gonna have to do that. I understand it now. You explained like it changes the contract, makes sense. But I was more under we have this much money to spend, and this was change orders happen, it's within the contingency. That was my thought process. So it wasn't trying to circumvent board authority.
And if that were the case, then that may have been within his authority. The issue is we don't have records one way or the other.
Gotcha. Okay. I just, some of this, I just feel like some of this is on my shoulders too, but however I can be of help. That, and I think right now you and Clerk Kalish have all the documents I had at the office except for the big drawings, and I can, if you want those, I can bring them up too. But should have everything else now.
At what point do you want us to involve you in conversations with Jewel?
At this point, what time is your call tomorrow? Right, I have morning obligation, so I may or may not be available for that call.
Otherwise, we can set something up intentionally with your schedule to include you in conversations, if
Yeah.
that's what you're wanting at this point.
Just let it slip that the lawyer will be on the next call and see if that changes anything.
Hired gun will be there.
So I have a question. If Shanda signs something that never comes to personal finance or to the full board, is the county still responsible for it?
Sorry to give the law school answer. It depends. Theoretically, it's a spectrum of responsibility from, it was on you as a board, you didn't rein in your rogue administrator, to she acted so completely against any reasonable understanding of her job that she in fact becomes personally liable for whatever it is.
Which they really have done, since Clint did sign this, does that obligate us to pay?
Potentially. Again,
I wasn't employed at that time, but.
but yes, I mean, in a number of our resolutions and ordinances, we specify a signing authority. Usually it's either the department head, the relevant department head, or the administrator. So if somewhere there is a resolution approving a $17,680 change order, and it says, now therefore be it resolved that Administrator Clinton Langreich is authorized to sign on behalf of the county, then that happened. If there's no such resolution and Clinton signed anyway, then it gets a little bit more complicated. And I don't want to, one, necessarily go into the details in open session, and then two, speculate
But
about.
the reality is, the bill should never have been presented to us like that. If he initialed it, maybe in haste or something, I don't know. I can't speak for him, but there should never have been a bill for that unit because we'd already paid for it.
We don't get our money back, if we at least get the other unit.
I don't know that it's of any value to us, but, I mean, if we pay for it.
Have it up on a platform somewhere, put a sign on it.
For the streets. Okay, we've talked on out, I think. But thank you for all the information. Okay. Discussion and possible action, a resolution relating to making a deficiency appropriation in various accounts. Mr. Kalish or? Administrator Fish?
Administrator Pesh would like me to do so. So this is the annual deficiency appropriation that many of you have seen before. We typically do this in March, so this way the entries, if approved, are completed. Before stuff goes off the audit, so we'll have our audit here before too long. This is a little early. The cutoff date for transactions to be posted back to the fiscal year is going to be March 15th. So March 15th, I think we're pretty well, I think we've caught most everything that needed to be posted back to 2023, but we established that deadline so departments know, that we can't post stuff back. And then once reports are provided to auditors, we go from there. So this is a list again. Some years it's long, some years it's shorter. It happens to be short this year, so yay for us, right? But we simply, at the end of the year, or the first quarter, run the balance sheets for all the different funds, and then make any of those funds outside of Fund 10 make the deficiency appropriation. So the transfer from the general fund to refill that, bucket, because these funds do not carry over, or these are revolving funds, sorry. So to get that to net out to zero, we transfer money from the general fund to the departments you have up here. So you have your list there. Let's see, we can start. Some of them are rather small. So the dog license, it's $87 over, simply because we do our best to figure out what the cost of dog takes are going to be every year. And I try to figure out how many dogs we're going to have registered, so we can go have people register more doggies and we won't have a deficiency there. But anyway, we get it as close as we can. So that's pretty minor. The county fair, that's a minor one as well. So.
Well, and just to elaborate on that,
Yep.
remember, we didn't pay salaries for a number of months.
Yep.
So had we been paying salaries, it would have been far more significant. So from September till January, with
Right.
Derek and I taking control of the fair, we've saved some money.
Yep.
So that's why that one is so low. Otherwise, you would have seen a significant
Yep.
increase in that.
There would have been a larger deficiency, because there has been in the previous years. I'm going up to campus food service. I think should be no surprise to any of us either. Operations ceased in July of 2023, so of course we had expenses, there were no revenues. So this will not be an issue with food service going forward. Richland County Nutrition Program, Trish is probably, maybe you have something to say about this, but I will share what Tammy Wheelock, our county supervisor Wheelock, and I sent out an email to departments to say, give us an explanation of why we're over or under, knowing that we're likely going to be asked. So I'll see if this jives with what you have, Trish. But my note here says, on February 26th of 2024, per Stephanie and Roxanne, the number of meals exceeded, the number of meals planned was 3,000 more than what we budgeted for. So that's basically the increasing cost is what you have there. Is that correct?
That's exactly right.
Okay. So I think that pretty well explains that one then. And then if we go up to UW food or outlay, of course, there's obviously been repairs made at the campus recently in this one. Most of this is from the large boiler that was put out there from Precision Copper Top. That was it was $22,063.39. So that pretty much took care of that deficiency there. So I don't think that that's a huge surprise. And then the community development block grant. This is what I'm going to refer to as a cleanup account. So this is Fund 13. We don't use this account very often. My only interaction since coming back in May 2021 with this account has been to do those CDBG projects with the auditorium in Lone Rock. So I feel fairly confident that we have that project wrapped up. Jason Glassberg and I from the city worked on getting all those financials together and getting that project kind of off our plates and closed. So my understanding of what this deficiency is for is there were a couple adjusting journal entries that I believe may be the cause. And looking back at previous years, there has been a little balance in here that's gone up and down. So this balance needs to be, we need to clear this account out because we don't really use this account anymore. And just to move forward with perhaps this new financial system, looking at some of these old accounts and cleaning them up and just closing them and starting fresh with new accounts is what this will do with this one. So you can see the total of all of these is listed there at the bottom, 92,798.89. Again, this is much less than what it has been in years prior. So you'll remember some of the big totals. I know we had large totals last year. So I feel much better about this transfer from Fund 10 to, refill these buckets for these balances.
There isn't an amount for Simons here.
There's not, because there's not, as of 2023, there's no deficiency there for Simons, which makes me feel okay too, because that presents difficulties sometimes.
Right.
And again, they weren't fully
That's
staffed
correct.
for a large
Yes.
portion of the year. They've been without an assistant director. The maintenance has been in flux. They are fully staffed now for lifeguards. So I think that is the reason why, had they been fully staffed and fully operational, I do believe we would have seen a deficiency. So we just want to be very transparent about why things look the way that they do.
And then these numbers are coming, like Candace said, these are coming from straight fund balance numbers, so it's not accounting for the world as it was. It's gonna look totally different next year when it's fully staffed or what have you, so
Yeah.
that's a very good point to make, Candace.
Yeah, and because it's a shared thing with the city, it's always becomes a bone of contention, I'm sorry to say.
The last couple of deficiencies took a little while to get straightened out, but we did, so
It's been a
moved on.
constant battle. Okay. Any more questions, Mr. Gotcho?
Derek, do we have any ongoing, campus food services costs anymore?
No, it's,
Okay,
it's,
so any maintenance of that facility or anything like that, we would likely see a UW Richland outlay,
yes, right, so this is specifically for, the food service fund, not Fund 32L, but,
which
right,
was mostly staff.
salaries, right?
Yep, okay.
Anyone else? I think we've gotten a great explanation. I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Cooley, seconded by Turk. All those in favor of making the outlay, efficiency payments signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We plugged the holes. Future agenda items. Okay, and
Mr. Chair, did you want a radio tower? I know the radio tower project update, did you want that
well,
last time or not? Because that information is available at all the public safety meetings and that, but we can put it on there if you'd like me to.
for next time,
Yes.
yeah, sure. Let's do the,
Motion to adjourn.
and Mr. Mannion made a motion to adjourn. And Joanne, if you have a moment, you'd like to talk to you
Okay,
before we leave.
all right. Yeah, I've got a little time.
Okay. All those in favor of adjournment?
We did a second.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.